Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is John, and I'm here to talk about books. This is going to be kind of my, before I begin, my microphone is now over here. I moved it, so if I'm a little distant, maybe I'll fix that next time, or you can let me know. This is going to be kind of my September wrap, sort of, because I talked about a lot of books I've read in September. I got it. The last video, but I'll finish talking about those, and I read a couple of great ones at the end there, so I'll kind of go over that. And then I wanted to talk about a few things. I wanted to give my take, kind of like my take on people's takes of Booktok, which I don't even have TikTok, so you can disqualify me if you would like. But I do have a take on that. I think I have an example that more people should kind of think about as they kind of have this discourse, because it seems to be popular. And then I wanted to go into number of books. Does the number of books you read matter? And I think the answer is yes and no. I really do. But let's get into it without further ado. The September wrap-up. I read 9 books in September, and I talk about, what are you doing, puppy? You want to come up here? My dog's been sick for the last day or so. You're a good girl. Okay, you can watch me. So I talk about the other books. The books I finished with, the one I really liked was, I love this. This is 5 stars for me. This is Franny and Zooey by J.D. Salinger. Now, I'm sure that I was assigned A Catcher in the Rye by Salinger in high school, and I'm certain I did not read it, because I did not read anything in high school. So I have not read that book. I actually tried to buy that book on thrift books, and it came so marked up. I was like, I can't read this. Like, it was underlined and annotated with like highlighter and pencil. It was a little bit that I think is okay, but I think that's just what you get with used online retailers sometimes. So I think I'm going to stick to just used bookstores, brick and mortar, to support those, and then I go to Barnes and Noble and such. But anyway, so I read this first, and I got this out of a little free library, and I loved it. So there's no blurb, like there's nothing on the back, there's nothing in here. It's just Franny and Zooey, J.D. Salinger. It's just like, I don't know, they're like, just figure it out, just read it and find out. So this is one that I think I can recommend. So this reminds me of, I think, so if you've read Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground, it's kind of like that. It's more, I'm not going to say experimental, but it's more along the lines of literary fiction, as opposed to, like, I haven't read Crime and Punishment, but I've heard that Crime and Punishment is more like the story of Dostoevsky, whereas The Double and Notes from Underground, which those are the only 2 I've read by Dostoevsky, I think those are more literary. So this is a literary book, and I did see reviewers slam it, and I wonder if they just don't like literary fiction. I loved it. So it's Franny and Zooey. So these are 2 people from the same family, the Glass family, and they come from this like prodigy child atmosphere. So like there's like a huge family, like 10 of them or something, and all of them are super super smart, and they're on this radio show when they're kids. It's like kind of like what's the word, not kid actors, but like kid geniuses or kid celebrities. And the 2 of them have kind of catapulted themselves. They're the youngest. They're 20 and 25. Franny's 20, and Zoe's, who by the way is a guy, in this, I guess that's a guy's name as well, is 25. So they kind of catapulted themselves to fame using this child prodigy thing. And it delves into the first story. I guess that Franny was first released in, I think, the New Yorker, and Franny is a 20-year-old college student who was meeting up with her boyfriend Lane, and basically starts to just unravel. Okay, and then Zoe's story, her older brother, who's 5 years older, is where he's at home talking to his mother, talking to Franny, who's now at home because of what was going on at school. And it's a lot of dialogue. If you like the literary style, and if you like Salinger, then I guess maybe it's worth a recommend. But I kind of see why people, kind of review bombed it a bit. I don't really agree with review bombing it if it's just the type of genre, but I kind of understand it. from that perspective. But I loved it. It was 5 stars for me. So move on. Before I read that, I did end up finishing. I did end up finishing and loving the story life of AJ Fikry. I was talking about it last video. It's just about a dude who's just like down on his luck. He's living alone. His bookstore's not doing well, and this event happens that really kicks his life into gear. And he has an expensive item of his gets stolen. Basically, nothing's going. It's like Murphy's Law. Nothing's going right for this dude. And this is like a 5-star book for me. This is like a book that I needed to read as like a palate cleanser, and it was perfect for the time. It was not too flimsy, where it's too light of a read, but it was just perfect for me. So I loved it for that reason. And we're gonna tuck it back in there. I've tried to organize my bookshelf back here by some of it's by like color. I have like a method to the madness, but mostly I dust it once a month when I put the books that I've read on there for the month, so it's kind of there. After that, I read my last book I read in September was super short. It was the Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Everybody's heard of that. I thought it was a longer book, and the book I actually have was like this critical edition where you're supposed to like take notes and whatnot. I didn't do that, but it was all right. I liked it. It's like the duality of man, good versus evil, and I think probably a lot of people have already read it, but I think it was like 90 pages long, if I'm not mistaken, so it was quick, and yeah, it was all right. I mean, I liked it. That's about all I have to say about that. I wanted to give my take next on the takes that people have on Booktok. Now, I don't have TikTok. I'm not interested in having TikTok. I will never have TikTok, because I don't do well with that short form, like everything's constantly switching. It's just bad for my brain. It gives me like this anxiety, and I don't like it. And I barely even like Instagram because of how short it is, and it tends to make me tense, and I don't like that. So, but I know what Booktok is, and I know the concept. It's very similar to BookTube, just shorter form or whatever. So here's the thing, like I see a lot. Now there's this one girl who I like on YouTube, and her name is According to Alina, I want to say, if I'm pronouncing that right. I think she's great. She kind of writes opinion pieces on books. I don't think I've seen her make a video on many actual book things, but I think maybe just she enjoys making that kind of content. So she makes really good kind of like think pieces or whatever those are called on Booktok, and whether it's healthy and whether it's like she had one on over consumerism and under consumerism, and like is it healthy for Booktok. The only thing I'll say that's I think inherently bad about Booktok is that they do market their paperbacks to kind of look suitable for a younger audience, when in reality a lot of those books have inside them more adult themes. I've only read, I think, 2 obvious Booktok books without really knowing that's what they were, and that is Colleen Hoover's Verity. It was all right. It was kind of nonsensical, if I'm being honest, but it was fine. It was a thriller. It was okay. And the other one was Emily Henry's Beach Read. I think I liked that one a little bit more, but again, like they're like, I don't know. I liked them. I got through them quick, and I was fine with them. But my take on that is that I think people, it's like you have to have an extreme take, right? You have to have like this like far left field take or just far right, whatever it doesn't mean. Whatever I mean by that, it's okay to just be in the middle. Like Booktok is not bad inherently. Booktok is just a platform on a social media service. Like it's not evil. There's nothing wrong with bookstores having Booktok tables. You don't have to read them. And I guess like I think about it like this. I think about like take maybe a girl from like Idaho. I don't know why I picked Idaho, but Idaho who moves to New York City to go to university, and she's having a hard time adjusting, and she doesn't have many friends, and she's kind of a homebody, introverted, maybe just staying in her dorm or whatever. And this girl just loves Booktok books. I don't know. And she's like Emily, she's like stacks of like Emily Henry's and Colleen Hoover's and whoever the other authors are. I don't even really know, but it's like when people just like declare like something trash. Like just imagine being that girl and looking at that being like Booktok's trash, and like that's all she likes to read, and like that's like her escape, and like that's like her life. It's kind of like I don't know, maybe just have some empathy, I guess, like, if you're that extreme. And I know people might argue with this, and they might say, well, like, she needs to grow up sometime, and people have opinions. It's just she doesn't have to listen to their opinions. Yes, but I also think that people are so extreme with their opinions. They feel like their takes, like they're really really negative or really really positive, and I don't see much in the middle, or I do, but it doesn't really go into examples. Like, I thought that example just now was kind of unique. It's probably not, obviously, but I think of it in terms like that. Like, if someone's just loves that type of book, that's cool. Like, just read what you want to read. If you want to read classics, read classics. If you want to read only books by women with female protagonists, go for it. If you want to just do the opposite, only male authored books with male protagonists, go for it. I'm kind of like, I'll read a good book if I think it's going to be good. Female protagonist, male, written by a guy, written by a girl. It doesn't really matter to me, but that's me. I just think it's something that we are getting so black and white, or just so one end or the other, and I just don't think it's necessary. And I think it does. I don't know. I don't know about you. In my life, one of my goals is like to just be like, leave the world a better place. In other words, like, I'm not trying to put anybody down or say your opinion is bad. It's just more of like, I want to, like, the reason I made this booktube is I want to connect with people that are like-minded and like similar books, as opposed to give my take because that's like content. I'm not really interested in making content, I should say, now that I'm making YouTube videos. I'm not interested in making content that the algorithm likes, or catchy titles. It's just more so, or catchy thumbnails. Like, I'll try all that stuff, but it's more that I just want to like talk about books. Like, I liked the old YouTube where you just talked about something, and if people like just vibed with it, like you were just cool. I don't know. I'll move on. My last thing is, like, does the number of books you read matter? And I think this answer is yes and no. So, for example, I'll use myself. I just read an Kazuo Ishiguro book I just finished a few days ago, and that was my 75th book of this year. Last year I read 51 books, and this year I'm at 75, headed into, we're in October. So I think whether you read 150 a year or 200, whatever, or you've never read that much in your life, it doesn't really matter. As far as like there's no hierarchy. Like, if you read a couple books a year, you're still allowed to like love books, right? If you read, if you're at like 120 right now, that's cool too. But I think once you get past a certain amount of books, the types of book you read matters less. Because I've read 75 books, so if I didn't like 20 of them, I've still read 55 others that I liked. You know what I mean? So I think it kind of, if you're like a one book a month person, or a book every other month, maybe you read slower, maybe you read when you have time, you have certain commitments that you can't read as much, then I think it matters more. Whereas I can try a bunch of different genres. If I don't like it, I'll finish the book and either just donate it somewhere, or just move on. Like, and that's okay. But I read a bunch of books, right? So I think that's something that maybe I haven't seen them talk about as much, but I kind of wanted to mention it because I feel like if you're someone who does not read a lot, and let's say you love fantasy, which is an extremely intimidating genre to me, if I were you and I read around 10 or 15 books a year, yeah, you're probably not going to want to take as much of a risk, because that might be like 10%. If you read 10 a year, one book would be 10% of like what you normally read per year. So I think that's where you take less of a jump with a recommendation. Do you know what I mean? I guess where I'm going with this is just I think it does matter, and I think it's more so like there are so many books out there for so many different types of people, and I personally like to experiment. But if I read significantly less, I think I'd probably just stick with a genre I know I really really like, because books cost money and it's a lot of time to read a book. So I just wanted to come at it from that angle, I guess, and I don't know what people think on that. It's a very weird thing. The one, not pet peeve, but, and I don't want to I don't think that they ever see it, but like there's certain booktubers I've seen that kind of like flex how much they read, and it's like a lot, right? They read easily 100 plus per year, and it's like you'll see like a monthly wrap up. Like I've read 9 books in September, and then months before that I read 12 and 12. Okay, like that's a lot of books I think. And then but you'll see booktubers just be like, yeah, I read like 24 books this month, you know, and they show you like these huge tomes, and it's like, you know, they do like a page count. I don't know. I mean, I don't get that. I think that's one of those things where I just don't care enough to. Again, it's like, why would I flex how much I read or whatever on someone who maybe doesn't get a chance to read as much? Like that doesn't really mean anything. Same with the type of book you read. I don't know. I don't get why. Again, it might be an algorithm thing, but I'll finish with this because this is, I don't want this to turn into kind of a ramble, but I'm not going to let an algorithm dictate the videos that I make and the stuff I say in the videos. Like I'll try different videos out and maybe titles and thumbnails just to see who vibes with it, but I'm not about to research the popular things and you're supposed to use certain numbers because people like numbers and all this stuff that I just don't think is genuine to people who just like reading books or love reading books like me. So hopefully you vibe with that, and if that's cool, then we're cool. But wanted to end with that, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.